Okay, and we are recording. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori. Today I have a very exciting and special guest here on my channel with me, and that is Baptiste Pinson, and he is the newly minted author of a historical fiction book that I am very excited to read, and I cannot wait to put him in the hot seat here and ask him some questions about his book and self-publishing. And yeah, Baptiste, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much, and thank you for pronouncing my name so well.
I try really hard to get the pronunciations right.
I know it's tricky, so really, thank you for the effort.
Yeah. So for people who have not had a chance to catch up with you on Twitter and see all of the exciting news about the cover coming out, and I know your book is officially releasing on the 18th of October, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the era that you wrote in and why you chose that specifically.
Well, so for everyone, let me show the book actually, just for those who didn't see the cover yet. I love showing this book. It's so beautiful.
It's beautiful.
So happy. So this is a story set in 2nd century, 3rd century China during a period that is known as the Three Kingdoms. I'm not sure if it's historically accurate, but I believe this is the bloodiest period of the bloodiest civil war of China. Like if you check the records, I think 2/3 of the population died during this 100 years. So maybe the way they did the census changed, but anyway, that was pretty bad, right? So this is a very popular period in literature in Asia. Like everyone knows about Three Kingdoms in China, obviously, but even if in Japan they love it, in Korea, I think in Vietnam they have a lot of knowledge about this time period called the Three Kingdoms. Now in the West, we don't know very much about Three Kingdoms. Now you have hardcore fans who will know very well about Three Kingdoms because of video games, Chinese TV shows, manga, movies. There was a very good movie by John Woo in 2008, I believe. Okay. But all of it feels very Chinese, obviously, which is really good. But we don't have a lot of novels that are written in a Western way, I want to say, about this topic. So this is why I wanted to do it. So you do have novels about the Three Kingdoms, but usually they are very specific about one character. Sure. or a tiny piece of this amazing story, while I wanted to do the whole story of the Three Kingdoms in one long series.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. And at first, I was under the impression originally that it was going to be a trilogy, and you quickly corrected me about that. You have a much bigger plan than that. So tell us how many books and roughly how much of a time period are we talking about here?
So the period of the time frame for the story or for my books?
For your books.
So this series is intended to be 10 books. So it's going to be quite long. Within those 10 books, there are going to be a few novellas. So stories that I feel don't deserve a whole book, but need to be said nonetheless. So I write a book every 3 months on average, 3 to 4 months. So I would say 3 books a year if I can. So if you start reading this, you are with me for the next 4 years. I also intend to give exclusive chapters in my newsletter. So for people who want to jump on my website and subscribe to my newsletter, there will be chapters that are not in the books and that focus on secondary characters. Now the book, the main series, it follows the story of one main character whose name is Liao Hua, and he basically lived throughout this period of 80 years. So it is from his point of view. This is a first-person point of view. The chapters I will give in the newsletter will check other characters around him. So this way we will know more about those people we lose in the process, for example.
Yeah. So, and just for anybody watching, I will have all of Baptiste's links down in the description box below, so you can check out the newsletter and his channel. He also has a YouTube channel, and get in touch with him on Twitter for his book and his Amazon link. So go pre-order it. I have it on the way. I'm very excited. So you mentioned that you did some pretty intense research, as I would imagine, for something of this scope. What was the research process? How did you even figure out where to start with research for this?
Well, the thing is, I love this this story. I've loved the Three Kingdoms story since, I don't know, for the past 15 years. I think I was a teenager when I first learned about Three Kingdoms through a video game, as many people. So I knew a bit about the settings, about like the main characters, the main events, the main battles, right? But actually, as I started writing, I realized I knew nothing about the life of people at that time, or the reason why those events happened. You know, it's like, all right, there was an uprising, but why was there an uprising? I didn't really know this, so I started to do some research. I knew only one sinologist who focused on this topic, which is his name is Rafe de Crespigny. He's from Australia, and he's absolutely amazing. And by reading his research papers, his books, I found other specialists of that era, or about China, ancient China in general. So, I think he was Rafe was a student of Hans Billenstein, I think his name was. You have other amazing researchers. So I spent months and months basically just reading those guys. There was a weird atmosphere in my house where I would just like 5 times a day go to my wife and like, hey, did you know that back then in China? And bring some random comment.
So she did the research with you, is what you're saying. She knows about all this.
Well, she's Chinese. She's Chinese to begin with. So, but she's definitely tired of me talking about her country. The history of her country, So the research was heavily done through those specialists of that time, or of China. Now, a lot of the things I wanted to include in the story, like the life of regular people, of peasants, soldiers, we don't have a clue. Like, so far, I didn't find any information about this. It wasn't recorded, or not well. So I had to fill the gaps with what we know of the period before, after, or maybe same period but different place, like neighboring countries and all of this. Yeah. And the funniest way I conducted my research was through video games. So it works sometimes. Sometimes it helps. So there is this very good video game called Total War Three Kingdoms, which is historically very good. Actually, the sinologist I mentioned before helped on this video game. So you know what? It's pretty accurate. So,
that's awesome. So I saw on Twitter, I think a couple of days ago, the video of you with your new baby opening your book baby and getting a chance to hold that for the first time. What is that? That is a feeling that I feel like is really hard to describe, but what did it feel like holding your first book in your hands for the first time?
Oh, that was fantastic. Nothing come close. The real baby feels pretty good as well the first time. Then they start crying and it's awful. But the book is very good to hold in your hand. You know, like I think through the writing, editing, and pre-publishing process, I must have read this book like 12 times. I was tired of it. I couldn't read this book anymore. Then I received it and I can't stop reading it again. It's like a whole new book, right? It feels very good. And the thing is, I live in Japan, I live in Tokyo, right? So the book had to be shipped from UK. So I waited for like almost 3 weeks for this book to arrive. I was really frustrated at the end. I was like, come on, this book is coming out in like 1 month. I need it right now to make sure the cover is okay, the inside is fine. So I was doubly happy when it finally arrived and I could hold it.
Finally see all of that work put into something that you can hold in your hands.
Exactly. I'm basically walking the book around in the neighborhood, like just under my arm.
That's awesome. I would totally do the same thing. I don't blame you at all. So you mentioned that you're telling this entire story from the perspective of one character, and that's through all 10 books.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a commitment that is pretty impressive, honestly, because I know a lot of big series will choose to show things through multiple POVs. So how did you decide on your main character, and what made him the right character to tell the story?
Well, first I said yes about the 10 books, but there will be some twists, right?
Sure, so, of course.
It's not going to be just straightforward, obviously. No, I chose this character, Liao Hua, for several reasons. First reason, I don't know why, I love his name. I remember reading the novel. Right, I should mention this story became very popular through a book called The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is one of the 4 classics of China. So one of the 4 Chinese classics. And so he wrote this book in 14th, 15th century. So like more than 1,000 years after the Three Kingdoms. So I read this book, and through reading this book, this guy shows up, but not very often, right? Liao Hua does appear, but not very often. But I remember reading his name and being like, man, I don't know why, this name sounds really cool. So that was the first reason. Second, he's one of the few that actually lived through it.
That helps.
So, yeah, most of them died at some point. This is a story that spans over like 80 years. So most of them died. This guy didn't. So it helps. It gives a reason why it should be him. And also, he not only survives, but he's probably the only one who survived while being a warrior, a soldier. Like some of the others, they are more like administrative staff of the emperor, of the warlords, and all of this. And some did live a long time. This one is like, not only he was a warrior, but he also took care of stuffs in his own territory. So a very easy character to choose. And lastly, because I feel like history and the legend has been very tough on him. Like, he's been there all along. He almost never lost a battle in his life. And somehow he's always relegated to this secondary, third level character. Like, oh, you're still here? Like, I've been here all along. So I think the legend of the Three Kingdoms has been tough on him, and I decided to change that and give him the central spot.
Well, it's not good. He's getting his own saga now, which is awesome.
And the thing is, he's a bit of a semi-legendary character, as in, we know the second part of his life very well. Like, we have a lot of information about this. We don't know anything about his youth. Now, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms made him into a rebel. They say he started, he came from a rebel background. So the rebel back then were called the Yellow Turbans, which is why my book is called the Yellow Sky Revolt. And so this is the legend. But basically, between the legend and the reality, it gave me so much ground to create a nice story where I could make it really fictional at first, then more historical later.
Yeah, a lot of different areas for you to explore as a writer.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So we often hear, and especially, you know, obviously this applies very heavily in fantasy and in historical influenced works. It's write the book that you want to read. So as you're reading, what kind of things really pull you into a story, and were any of those things part of what you used in your own writing process for Yellow Sky Revolt?
So what the kind of things I like in books I read, and I think one of the tropes I prefer is the motley crew, right? We talked about this, I think, on Twitter.
Yes,
I love when like, if you give me a book with guys who cannot stand each other in daily life, but they will basically sacrifice themselves for those non-friends comrades during a battle. I will read that book in a matter of hours. I love a motley crew. Now, in the first book, in the Yellow Sky Revolt, because the character is still very young, he's a child at first, we don't have this crew too much. In the second book, it's basically all there is. So I'm really excited about the second one as well. So that's the first thing I love in stories. Not so much, it's not really included in my upcoming novel. What I did include, and I love in stories, is like a very flawed character.
Yes.
Whether it's morally or skill-wise.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot stand the characters that are like a bit of a goody two-shoes, and you know, they take a sword and they are amazing with it. You know, they get the power. Like the last Star Wars trilogy, never hold a lightsaber in her life, then she could use the Force. So no, I hate this. I cannot stand that. My characters will develop slowly. They have to go through trials. They lose. That's something also that doesn't happen enough in literature. The characters losing a battle,
Yes,
through their fault as well.
yeah.
So this will happen, right? There will be a very steep learning curve for this character. So this is the kind of things you can expect in my books here.
That's awesome.
So,
well, Motley Crue, as I've told you, is one of
yeah.
my absolute favorite tropes in any type of book ever. So I definitely am excited now you just got me excited for book 2, because now we have a Motley Crue coming in. So you're doing like marketing this really, really well.
Nice, right? So
it's great.
For those who love the Motley Crue, please subscribe to my newsletter. There will be amazing stuff coming, especially between 2 and 3. So awesome. There will be a lot of stuff happening with Motley Crue. Now, just for you to have an idea, maybe the main character of this book was inspired quite heavily by Uhtred of Bebbanburg from the Saxon stories, The Last Kingdom on TV show, in the sense that I love this character who is almost always right, against the general opinion. He's almost always right. He's saving the day. But because he's kind of arrogant and he knows how right he is, he's screwing everything up. Like the king always has to be like, all right, you saved all our lives. I should be rewarding you, but you are so awful as a person. I have to punish you.
Yeah.
And so this is exactly the tone I wanted for my main character.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned that you write a book roughly every 3 months, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I've been working on one for 10 years and I still don't have a first draft. So what does your writing process look like on a day-to-day basis?
Before talking about the day-to-day, I must mention I'm a plotter, right? So most writers are either plotters or pensers, right?
Pensers, yep.
Yeah. So I'm a plotter. I love plotting. This is maybe my favorite part of writing is plotting the whole series, the whole book. So my process goes like this. The first day when I decide to write a book, I will just write 2 sentences, 4 sentences top, saying, okay, this is what happened. Part 1, part 2, part 3 of the book. That's it. And it's really short. Next day, I will start developing the plot in detail. So it takes me 2 to 3 days. And then I have 5 pages of plot, which I go through as I write. So it's really easy. I never stop once I start writing. I don't have to be like, I have no idea what's going to happen next, which is very helpful. Then on day-to-day is like, I will write a bit in the morning if I have the time. And I usually start by reading what I wrote the previous day.
Sure. Not
for editing. I don't really edit then. Even if it's not perfect, I leave it. It's just to put me right in the mood of what I wanted to say and everything. So I read what I wrote the previous day, then I write a bit in the morning. Then I will write a lot in the evening once the kids are in bed.
Yep.
And usually I will write between 3,000 to 5,000 words in a day. So
wow.
So for example, the Yellow Sky Revolt took me 21 days to write the first draft. The second one, which is called Heroes of Chaos, took me 18 days, so even shorter.
Wow.
Now, the third one, I'm in the middle of it right now because I'm about to publish my first book. I'm a bit slower.
Yep.
But yeah. So the first draft, it goes very fast. I'm really lucky. I can write a lot in a short period of time. Then after that, there's a lot of drafts, probably 6, 7 before I send it to beta readers and then editors.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just very impressed by that timeline. That's amazing. I'm going to come back and rewatch that and try to I'm working on learning how to outline. Yep. Like I was the type of person where I just wrote and I didn't outline, and I'm learning as I've gotten older, and especially now that I'm dipping my toes in epic fantasy, you can't do that. It's a lot.
Some people are amazing at this. My favorite writer is Bernard Cornwell, obviously, and he's a penciler. He never plots anything, right? I don't know how he does that.
How do you keep it all straight?
Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot of going back and forth, in the editing process. It must make the whole editing process so long I don't have this kind of patience, so I prefer to lose 1 week at first to outline, plot everything, and it's fun. It's like playing God. It's like, all right, this is what's going to happen.
The puppet master.
Exactly, I love it. So no, plotting is super interesting. I love this part, and then it doesn't mean I stick with it.
Sure.
A lot of time I shift a little bit. Especially when it comes to secondary characters.
Sure.
I love secondary characters. I'm a sucker for them. That's also what you can expect in this book from the books I love is very interesting, or I hope very interesting secondary characters. Yeah. And so secondary characters, they come and go pretty much as they want. Yeah, even though I put them in the plot, they will be like, sorry, here I'm supposed to have one line, but actually I want to stay a bit longer. Is that okay? And I'm like, all right, fine.
All right, fine.
Like there is in the second book, there is a very important character that was supposed to be just a very, very secondary one, and was supposed to be a boy. She became a girl as I wrote it. So yeah.
It is so funny when the characters kind of step off the page and have a life of their own, and all of a sudden you're kind of collaborating with them.
Yeah, it's like they know where this is going. They're like, no, you don't want to write me like this. I will be better like that. And you'll see in 50 pages it will make sense. Then 50 pages later, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Right? Good job.
So thank you, secondary character.
Yeah, I know with the book I'm working on right now, there was one where I was writing a scene and this character just appeared in the scene and originally was supposed to be just a passerby. Yeah. And all of a sudden I was like, oh no, there's something else to this character. And then she's a main secondary character in the story. I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, it is funny how as you really start to understand and discover the voice of your characters, how that really brings them off the page really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They have a life of their own.
They do. So mentioning kids, I can attest to the fact that parenting and writing is a tough combination sometimes.
Yep.
So for those of us who maybe have that added bonus in our lives of being parents and also trying to write our fictional children at the same time, do you have any recommendations of how you deal with, balancing the two of those things?
Well, the very easy one is you leave them on the balcony. Just a couple of hours that will make them quiet. No, I'm very lucky, I think, when it comes to writing while being a dad at the same time. I don't really know how I do. It's quite a miracle, maybe. But the first thing is I have an amazing wife who is also at home. We work and research from home. Usually we try to balance who takes care of the kids. I think we do a very good teamwork on this. But when I'm in the zone, when I'm writing something and she can feel like, all right, this seems intense, then she will try to step up a little bit over with the kids, go outside maybe. And I do the same for her at other times. But yeah, I'm very lucky because of my wife. So the book is dedicated to her, as you will see in the first pages. And second thing is I can very easily switch on and off. And I know a lot of writers struggle a bit with this. I don't know why. I'm lucky. It's not a talent. It's not a skill I developed. It's like this. My kid can come and bother me. Very often he will show up like, hey, Dad, what kind of Pokemon is strong against electric types? I'm like, dude, I'm in the middle of a battle scene and you interrupt me. So I will tell him he's like, whatever, and get out. And then I will switch right back in.
Yeah.
So even if I'm being interrupted, even if there's a lot of noise, I can still write without too much of an issue.
Yeah. It's definitely a what I consider a skill, learning how to write within the chaos of parenting. It's very different. Anyway. Right? What choice do you have?
it's either that or no book.
Exactly.
So no, I mean, it's not as much a struggle as I thought it would be. And I'm lucky because I work from home and I'm a freelancer, so I manage my own schedule. So I usually avoid writing during the moments of the day when the kids are fairly annoying. So 5-6 p.m. where
Yep.
they are going down a little bit.
Yep.
I wait for them to go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's the real quiet time is at night when everybody else
beautiful.
is in bed. It's amazing.
Beautiful. You don't appreciate evenings until you have kids.
That is very true. That is very true. It's almost like you don't know what to do with the quiet once you have it. Sometimes
you almost want to wake them up. Like, can you stop being so quiet?
Yeah. So outside of, I mean, this saga is going to keep you busy for a while. But in the future, what are there any other eras of history or culture that you really are drawn to write about in the future after you've completed this massive, impressive project?
Well, actually, this is, even though that's the first book I published, I've written 6 or 7 books before. I forget.
Okay.
And most of them will never see the light of day, but there is a fantasy trilogy actually that I really want to publish at some point, and I don't think I will wait until the end of this one before I publish them, because they've already been written. So now it's a question of editing and cover and all of this. So I think maybe after book 3, maybe after book 4, I will publish this trilogy, which is about Scandinavian mythology. So definitely want to publish this one. So it's a retelling of Ragnarok from the point of view of a fallen soldier who joined Odin's army. So a fallen human who will take part in Ragnarok. So I really want to publish this one. After this series, I might go towards Japan in terms of culture. I'm not sure which time period, because there are a couple I really want to dive in. There's the Sengoku Jidai, which is very often compared to the Three Kingdoms of China. So it might be too close. So I might go to Nara Jidai, which is an era that is filled with magic and spiritism and stuff like this. So I'm not sure yet. I would really love to write about Genghis Khan as well. It's been done by Conning Gulden, so it's difficult to to do better than that. But I would love to. And I have one shorter project that I want to write about 16th century France at some point. Just a bit of a cocorico to my own country, as we say.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that we are going to have plenty of really good reading material keeping up with you for the next few years here.
You will have plenty. I hope they will be good, but there will be plenty, yes.
That is awesome. I'm very excited about that. And especially having a Scandinavian background myself, it's always fun. There's, again, like with everything, there's so much richness to the history of that it's fun to see when people pull bits and pieces out that maybe I haven't read before. So I'm excited about that too.
Me too. I love that. Was the first stories I wrote were about Vikings or pre-Vikings. So it's not it's more like raiders from Scandinavia. And then this trilogy about Ragnarok. The thing is, there is already a lot in modern literature about Vikings. A lot of amazing writers out there. And I just felt like I don't want to start in the same sandpit as those guys. So that's why why I picked this one as my first published novel, is because that's in marketing terms, that's a blue ocean. There's not a lot of competition. There is a strong need, or potentially a strong need. That's why.
Well, and like you said, you're giving a chance for these more maybe Western audiences to get a chance to experience this incredible period of Chinese history that some people, like you said, may have not heard about, or only from video games or things like that. So that's really cool.
Exactly. Plus, even if you don't know, you are surrounded by this story. Like, if you ever go to a Chinese restaurant, there's a big chance you will see a small altar with a guy dressed in green with like a big beard. He will be holding a crescent moon halberd. This is Guan Yu, and he's from this story. He's all over the world now. You have another very popular character in this story called Cao Cao, which is a bit of a mischievous warlord. And in China, he's so popular, they have a saying which is like a Cao Cao, Shuo Cao Cao, Cao Cao Dao. So which means like if you say the name Cao Cao, Cao Cao will appear. So it's basically the Chinese equivalent of speak of the devil. And so he's so popular. He's basically the equivalent of Julius Caesar. in China. And
Yeah.
not knowing about him feels a bit, I don't know the perfect English word for this, but it's too bad. It's a bit of a shame
Yeah.
not to know about those guys who
Yeah.
are known and popular within like 2 billion peoples on the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot reading your books. It's an era of history in a country that I don't know that much about, admittedly. And that was one of the things that drew me to it when I found you on Twitter, was it just immediately, drew me in as the story of this incredibly tumultuous time in China with, like you said, the biggest civil war. And that was, I'm like, I've, growing up in America, I know a lot about our Civil War, which was much later than that. But it's just incredible always to learn about those periods of time in other places.
Yeah, plus it's like whenever you speak of China, whether in ancient or modern time, those numbers feel surreal, when it comes to the number of people who like go to war, get killed, and it's quite amazing. So for a Westerner, it's difficult to grasp the size of those events. But at the same time, some of those events feel oddly familiar. Like this story starts with an uprising from the peasantry. So peasant rebelled against the power because of religious leaders. So religious leaders pushed them to rise. And when we dive a little bit into what is this religious about, it has a little bit of a Christian feeling to it. So those things are not very well known, but I wanted to go deeper into this side of the story so that Westerners might feel more connected with China. With Chinese culture. And I think we definitely need this right now. Start connecting with those Eastern cultures, like Asian cultures.
Yeah. So kind of going along with that. So if someone was loving Yellow Sky Revolt and wanted more information about, or wanted to start researching or reading more about that kind of era in China, what resources would you recommend for people that are interested in that era of history?
Well, the obvious first document would be Romance of the Three Kingdoms by Luo Guanzhong. So that's, like I said, one of the 4 Chinese classics. It might be a bit difficult sometimes to read because it's very factual. It's not a very storytelling type of
It's like
novel.
A history book.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's a bit more than that, but it feels like it sometimes. But that would be the first place. Now, you have to remember this is a fiction of the Three Kingdoms. So the writer, Luo Guanzhong, included a lot of legendary tales that never happened. Now, I try to include both in my books, legendary tales that are very famous already or more historically accurate events. But that would be the first. Now, you can also use video games, like I said. The most famous franchise is Dynasty Warriors, which is more on the action side. You can use Total War Three Kingdoms on the strategy side. There's a bunch of very good TV shows. The one Three Kingdoms about that was shot in 2010 was very good. And if you want to do more academic research, like I said, you can check Rafe. I have no idea about the pronunciation of his name, Rafe de Crespigny, and use him to search other specialists of that time.
Yeah, awesome. And then you've kind of already talked about my final question was going to be what was kind of your plan for the series going forward. But so you've got the 10 books and you've got other projects in the works. Is there anything else about Yellow Sky Revolt that we need to know before it comes out on the 18th that we haven't touched on yet?
It's going to come very soon. I think your video will be ready.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping this is going to go up in the next day or two. So
all right.
Get people excited about it.
Thank you very much. Well, this book is very much an introduction, to this story. So as such, the main character is very young at first. And I know this is something that not everyone enjoys, like a story about a little boy. So he's more a spectator. He's witnessing more than he's acting maybe at the beginning of this book. But I made him, evolves slowly. So take it as an introduction to a very long series, and this is really a book about the basis of his life. So this book will explain everything that will happen after. Now, for people who know the story of the Three Kingdoms, I left a ton of Easter eggs. I hope you guys will catch them, like seriously a ton of them. For those who don't know Three Kingdoms, I really tried hard to make a book that you will enjoy without previous knowledge of China. It's not heavy on the Chinese vocabulary or philosophy. I did put some, but not enough to bother, I hope. So I hope that will be a nice getaway for people to get interested about Chinese culture and specifically ancient China.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, though, I'm very passionate about child perspectives or young perspectives in stories. And so I actually love that you're starting this story from the perspective of a child, because I think if we think of something like a massive civil war with all of these warriors and rulers and all these big moving pieces, I think it's a very fresh and good way to introduce us to something of that magnitude through the eyes of a child who lived his life through that.
Yeah, especially that was a good way for me to make it less technical at first, and so that people who don't know about China can slowly discover, because a child doesn't spot everything, right? So this little boy, he's 7 at first. This little boy doesn't really understand maybe some oh shit, I don't know this word in English.
Intricacies.
Intricacies. He doesn't know some intricacies of the etiquette in China or how you are supposed to behave. But neither does the reader. So that's perfect. We learn those things with him. So in any case, I hope you will really start enjoying this era because of this first book. Yeah.
Awesome.
And a very last note, at least, I don't know if
no, go for it.
You mind? I'm sure I made a lot of English mistakes as I spoke in this video. I promise I write better English than I speak it. And 2 editors went through this book. So, you won't have the same mistakes, I promise.
I honestly didn't even notice any, so I don't think it's an issue at all. Like I said, I found Baptiste on Twitter and saw the cover of his book, and it was immediately pulled into being very interested in the story and the era, which is something that I don't know enough about. And so I'm really looking forward to reading it. And I, again, will leave all of the links in the description box below so you guys can go check it out. I honestly wish you the absolute best with the launch of this book. I think that this is going to be an incredible journey to watch as a reader as we go through this massive project that you have planned. And I think a lot of people are going to really love it. So I'm very excited for you.
Thank you very much, Tori, for giving me some time on your channel. And
absolutely.
Please, guys, if you read my book and if you liked it, leave a review. If you didn't like it, that's fine.
Don't bother.
Don't bother reviewing it. But in any case, please come say hi on Twitter. I'm very, I really want to connect with all of you and know what you thought. Yeah. So thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you are all having a fantastic week, having 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.